Ladies and gentlemen, Gwangju Performance Project.
We started here at Gwangju. My name is Amanda Koons, and this is the lovely Travis.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about how our theater group came together and what we've done in Korea so far and how we did it, and how some of the challenges we faced were maybe unique to our situation, being foreigners living in another country, not speaking the language, and not having access to a lot of things, but how in the end it went pretty well. Like basically due to the network of resources that are available to all the foreigners that live here, and all the great people that we met too. So I'll start right away by introducing ourselves a little more in relation to theater and what we do. This is going to zoom into my hometown, which is in Saskatchewan, Canada. In the center of Canada, there's this really flat, empty area with nothing in it except farms and bored people. That's where I live. And it's going to zoom right into my parents' house in Saskatoon. The province is it's huge. It's geographically, it's 600,000 square kilometers in size, which is 6 times the size of Korea. But it has 1 million people in it instead of 50 million in Korea. So it's hard to imagine the difference in population density, but it's wild. Like, there's huge parts of this province that are completely empty, and everything is really, really spread out. That's my parents' house where I grew up. And it's a lovely place. It's really nice. It's comfortable. But it's a little bit boring. Like, as a result, I think it produces a lot of good art, because everybody has a whole long cold winter to just stay in their basements or at their houses and work on their projects. So everyone I knew was involved in music or theater or some kind of art. And I think that had an impact on me too. They call it the land of the living skies because there's no mountains or trees, so there's like a ridiculous expansive horizon where you can look at the sky, and the sky's always really beautiful, whether it's the northern lights or the sunrise or whatever. And they get a lot of sun. It's the most sunny place in Canada, and has also the most temperature variation, from plus 45 degrees Celsius all the way down to minus 55 degrees, which I've experienced lots, really, really cold temperatures. And then most people are involved in agriculture or oil harvesting or whatever. And most people are progressive politically. It's a really liberal province because of its support for the arts and universal health care and stuff like that. And then I have just a couple pictures that give you an idea of what it's like there. So it can be beautiful, but also empty and kind of bleak. These are pictures of me growing up. I chose them specifically because I think they show that I've always been interested in performance and kind of costumes and joking around and being like a public kind of figure. And me and my friends did lots of things. I acted all the way through school, like elementary school, middle school, high school, university, and then I switched out of theater into my history degree, but me and my friends continued to do theater projects on the side. So what we would do, we figured out a model where we would sort of pool our money, rent a venue, and then just hopefully sell enough tickets to make it back. And I did this a few times in Saskatoon, and then this is the basic model that we applied to the Gwangju Performance Project in Korea.
I'm Amanda. I was the director of the latest show for the Gwangju Performance Project. This is going to zoom into my hometown here. I'm from America, the United States, from Chicago, Illinois. Illinois itself is kind of a boring state, but I'm from Chicago, so Chicago is not as boring as where Travis grew up. It's a pretty big city, but I'm from the south side, which is more of a suburb of the city. Here's a picture of all of the kids that I would do shows with, and some of my sister and brother, and my cute little nephew there. He's not important in my theater life, he's just cute. I went to university for theater. I have a degree in directing, and I enjoy theater as well as traveling, which is why I'm here in Korea. But I love to travel and do theater at the same time. When I was in university, I took a show to Peru, South America, and we toured a big show around Peru and Paraguay in South America, and that's what really got me interested in theater and traveling at the same time. So I was really grateful to be able to bring a theater, to bring theater, my love, into my other love of traveling here in Korea. And that is it for me.
So, Amanda said that she's the director for our latest show, and I didn't really talk about what my role is. I say that I'm the producer of our group, and a lot of people ask me what that means, so I'm going to talk about that for a minute. Basically, I'm the organizer for the group. So the first play had a different director. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But my job is to get the people together and put up the money and kind of delegate responsibility. And so that's what I did for both shows, as well as acting in the shows, because I really like to act. So how did the group get started? That was last year, about 1 year ago, in February. I met Joe Park and Huey Sampson, who works here as well. And when I met Joe, it was just at Speakeasy, and we were chatting about theater and how we both loved it, and we always wanted to do something in Korea, but it just seemed really impossible. But what was exciting about meeting her is that we really shared a lot of the same ideas about how it would be done, and we shared a real passion for the reasons that it should be done. And then when I met Huey, I felt like he had a similar passion that also helped us. And he's smiling, I think, partly because this presents him as like one of the founding members, which is news to him, I think. but you were. But anyway, the thing that we shared that was exciting to me was this idea that foreigners could do other things on the weekend than just spend their money at the bars. Because that's basically what most teachers here do. They make their money during the week and then they go to the bars on the weekend and drink. And I think most people find that a little unsatisfying and repetitive. And so almost everyone that I met and talked to about it felt the same way, that, man, they want a project. They want something to do with their spare time that's constructive and collaborative and exciting, but nobody was really willing to take leadership and make it happen. And so I feel like at the beginning, that's what me and Joe did. So Joe, she had already started the Gwangju Performance Project as an idea. She was going to do a cabaret type show, meaning like a variety show with a lot of different acts. And we modified her idea into just doing plays from scripts. And I'm still interested in doing a cabaret, but that was her original intention. And she brought me a script, and it was really funny to me because I just met this person, but the script that she brought to me to do was called Density Crisis by Christopher Durang. And coincidentally, that was the last play I had directed in Canada. So when she brought me this script and said, hey, let's do this one, and it was my play, the one I just did, I thought, okay, you know, this girl, she has the same taste as me, she's on the same page as me as to what kind of theater we can do. So then the next script she brought to me was our first play, The Real Inspector Hound, which I think, oh no, it's in a little bit. So I'll talk about our first play in a minute. But first we're going to talk together about what a person needs to do to make a project like this happen. And these are sort of the rules that I came up with, that I operated by. And I've been refining them since we started. I didn't know this all at the beginning. So of course, the first thing you need to do is find good people. And I feel like that's what I did with Joe and Huey and then later with Amanda. And when I say good people, I don't mean just people who are fun to work with or good, nice people, but I mean people that share a passion with you and share an organizational sort of understanding, like the way things are going to work, the way responsibility will be delegated. And I was so lucky to meet Amanda when we did her second show for that reason. And then after you meet those good people, you got to decide what you want to do. And you have to refine into a really specific thing. Because we were talking about cabaret, we were talking about sketch comedy, we were talking about all these different kinds of ideas. I wanted to do a festival of one-act plays, which is also a good idea, but we needed to settle on one thing. So we settled on this one script and then we were ready. You have to be organized. You have to, and we were terribly unorganized in our first show. We just went by the seat of our pants, because I don't know who here knows Joe Park, but she's a bit of a mess when it comes to organization, and so am I. And it wasn't until later when I met Amanda and Gail, who's here, that we had spreadsheets, we had schedules, we had plans, and those kind of things are what make the difference. If you can really be organized, it saves you all kinds of trouble. When I say be demanding, I mean you have to make people fulfill their commitments to you.
If someone says that I would like to help you do this, you have to really hold them to that, because they want to help you, but they need someone who's going to hold them to that, because otherwise they'll just go along their regular routines. And if you say, hey, remember when you said you were going to help us? Then they'll really get involved and become part of the community that you're building.
Yeah, everybody just needs that extra push, that extra reminder. And that's what's really good about Facebook, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Social networking is really good because you can passive-aggressively bother your friends all the time and say, like, remember, please help me. And that's the same as ask for help. And one of the main reasons we wanted to do this GIC talk was to give people an example of how they can do different creative projects of their own. Not just acting, but any kind of project. And the main advice I would give would be to rely on the assistance of the community. And I'm going to give examples of that later, but there's so many organizations in Gwangju that can help you make a project, including the GIC. I think primarily the GIC. And then I'm in a hurry, but know when to compromise. Sometimes you can get what you want, but sometimes you can't. So even though we had this really clear idea of what we want, we had to modify it from time to time.
You have to really know what you want to be able to achieve your goal, but you have to know when to compromise so that you can get that done realistically. Just because you are in a different country and it is difficult to get exactly what you need to know.
Yeah. And then finally, focus on your details. I'm really bad at that. And I think most people in our generation are because we're used to multitasking and like having all their windows open at the same time. But I have to always remind myself, although I have 1,000 things to do, I have to do this job, this job, this job. Even if it means like paper macheing something that takes like a long time or, one job at a time. And the first project we did was called Picasso with the Lapin Agile. This was the script that Joe Park brought to me at the coffee shop. After we had the script, that's all we had. We didn't have other people interested, we didn't have a venue, we didn't have money, we didn't have props. And so eventually it ended up being a finished product with advertisements, and it went really well. We sold all the tickets. But when we started, we had this. We were operating on the rooftop of the first alley, generously donated to us. And it was cold and loud and not good for what we were doing at all, but it was all we had. So we set up tables and we rehearsed here for, Krista, 2 months? I don't know. Yeah. And so we were on this roof for months, just practicing our lines, Oh yeah, I forgot about auditions. I'll talk about that too. To get auditions, we just put out ads on Facebook and everything, and then held them right here at the GIC. They donated us some space, and we set up a table and hoped for the best. At first, we didn't get enough people. We didn't get nearly enough people to fill all the roles, so we couldn't be very choosy. And so this meant we had a lot of people with no theater experience that were just like, okay, I'll help you with your show. And as a director, I was assistant director for that. It was really nerve-wracking. Okay, I think you can act maybe based on a little audition. But everybody did marvelously in the end. But after we got our group together, then I brought them on this roof. And I think the people in my cast were perhaps a little bit skeptical of what we were doing, because we didn't have any resources. And so this is all I had to show them. And as it went on, though, we moved into other places. This is Brian Hunter's studio. He let us use it to rehearse. We moved into, this is the same place. Oh yeah, and some of our cast, it turned out, had remarkable experience. Like Zach here. If it wasn't for him in both shows, I don't know what we would have done. He's an acting coach. Not professionally, but he's the best acting coach I've ever seen. And so you can see him here working with Krista. He's really good at it. And this, I'm going to talk about it later, but there's all this natural talent in Gwangju that you can tap into if you just ask the right questions, if you just put the word out. And we got Zach, who's so good at coaching acting that he did the job that neither of us directors could really do very well. And then later we finally got a venue. This is by Chonam University. How this works, this is our performance venue. Again, I just had to put up a lot of cash. And the way that it worked was, Joe Park, my director, her mother was friends with a newspaper reporter who happened to know some theater owners. And so the deal we got was we could use this theater if this newspaper had exclusive advertising rights for the show, which I thought was really hilarious because none of us cared about Korean advertising. Because we didn't, I don't know, how else are we going to advertise in Korean? So we got this deal in this place, and we paid for it, but again, that's all we had. We just had a place and a script and some people, but we didn't have any of the other things that we needed to make this happen. And then we started selling tickets. And selling tickets was so hilarious because we printed 200 tickets, and we thought, oh, maybe we'll sell 50 tickets, and maybe make back a little bit of the money we're sinking into this theater. But in a day and a half, we sold 200 tickets. We sold all of our tickets. And that just showed me, like, that at Gwangju there's so much interest in art, there's so much interest in a project like this, that we could do anything we wanted and we'd have support. And so once we sold all the tickets, then there was a whole new kind of pressure. Like, now there's a real show that's really going to happen and we have to make it good. And so everybody involved with it started to freak out a little bit. But we rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed in this space, and we got it together. We got a bit of a set, we got costumes, we got mustaches, and it started to come together. It started to look like it was really going to work. And then finally we got to opening night of the big performance. And this is us backstage at the theater, and we're basically peeing our pants. Like, we're so nervous, because some people have experience and some people don't. And, and then the theater flooded. On the first day of our performance, we had about a foot of water through the whole building, completely flooded out, and all we did was, we couldn't even find a mop bucket. That shows how, like, difficult it is sometimes to be a foreigner in Korea. We scoured the city looking for a bucket to mop the floors with, because nobody knew where to buy one. Nobody knew how to ask for one. So we finally got a bucket, we mopped the floors up, we got all the water out, and the show began. We had 3 shows. This is just a couple shows of us in the dressing room getting ready. Krista looks really great. And then finally the show happened and everybody was happy about it. So these are a couple shots from the show itself. And as far as I know, it was well received. I really had a good time. We got some good reviews. My friends liked it. So I felt it was like from rags to riches, quite literally. Like, we had nothing, and then it turned into a really big and exciting and beautiful thing. Just through stubbornness, I guess. Persistence. And then finally, we finished the show, and we got this guy Arlo. We said, "Hey Arlo, can you destroy our set for us?" And he just took a hammer and smashed it to 1,000,000 pieces, and that was the end. It was cathartic, actually, to watch him like rip our whole project to pieces with his bare hands. And then it was over. And so then, after that show's over, we've done a successful play in Korea, but everybody wants us to do another one. I'm getting these like radio interviews, and people are saying, "Let's go on to the next show." But my director moved to New York City, Joe Park, and I had no director and no idea what we were going to do next. And so I met Amanda. She's going to tell you about that. And we moved on to the next show. Would you like to talk about it first, or show the trailer first? Okay, so before we talk about the next show, which is The Real Inspector Hound, we're going to show you the advertisement for it. This was done by Brian Richardson. He's a really talented video maker. We didn't know that until he made this thing. We shot the sequences for it in like 20 minutes, and then he made this ridiculous trailer. So anyway, here it is.
The search still goes on for the escaped madman who is on the run in Essex. County police let
It's a little bloody, just a warning.
receive a report that the man has been seen in the desolate marshes around Muldoon Manor. The man is wearing a darkish suit with a lightish shirt. He is of medium height and build and youngish. Anyone seeing a man entering to this description and acting suspiciously is advised to phone the nearest police station.
That was Rochelle, by the way.
Inspector Koons, who is masterminding the operation, is not available for comment, but it is widely believed that he has a secret plan. Meanwhile, police and volunteers are common response was loud hailers shouting, "Don't be a madman, give yourself up." This is the end of the police message.
Everyone was really excited about getting us to do a second show. And so once we started with the second show, we just kept getting, people would call us or message us and say, "Hey, we want to do advertising. Can you write an article for this magazine? Can we do a radio interview? Can you write another article? Can you do all of this for us? Because we really want to show this thing that you guys are doing. So we hadn't thought about advertising yet, but all of a sudden everyone started doing it for us, which was that's really great about this community, that everyone really comes together and supports the arts and whatever you are wanting to do.
Yeah, like normally back home in Canada, it was so hard to promote. Promotion would be impossible because advertising is really expensive. But like she said here, it kept being offered to us, which is both amazing and terrifying, because if someone says like, hey, make a 2-page ad by tomorrow, like, I don't know how to do that. And so again, we mostly got other people to do it for us. And so we advertised in the Gwangju News, on the GFN radio, in Joe Wabe's magazine, Art Elemento. He helped us a lot. And so again, to anyone who wants to do any project of your own, all you have to do is put a message out on Facebook, and suddenly you have a million places to promote. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the second show that the Gwangju Performance Project did was the Real Inspector Hound. And how I got involved is that I heard about the show, the group, through the first show. And I, on a whim, messaged Travis. I heard that he was doing something like this, and I thought maybe I'll get to do a small role, and I'll get to like maybe come and help and do a few things. So I messaged Travis and told him that I've done theater before, and he messaged me back and said, hey, I need a new director. Why don't you come meet me? And I was like, okay. So I met Travis, and our first meeting went really well. We agreed on everything. We had all the same ideas about everything we wanted to do and about how everything should work. So it was a really great beginning. And after the first meeting, I went from maybe wanting to do something to being the director of the next show, which was really great. And it was a great experience for me because I got more involved in the Gwangju community and met all of these really amazing creative people and created this family here in Korea for me. The thing that was not difficult for this show is getting people interested in wanting to do it. As he said, for the first show, it was difficult to find people who wanted to do it. So we figured for this show we would have a meeting to get lots of people involved, and a lot of people showed up, and everyone that I talked to said, hey, I hear you're doing the show, can I help? I want to do something. Can I be in it? When are auditions? So we had auditions, and what was fantastic about these auditions is that we had too many people auditioning. We had to turn people away. So we actually got to sit and decide who we wanted to be in the show.
Which should be the point of auditions, right?
Yeah. So it was a really great experience because all of a sudden there were all of these people interested, and now Travis and I got to sit and actually discuss and talk about what we wanted to do. So as far as advertising goes, one of our first big advertisement things that we did was through the GIC Day. We had a community booth there, and we gave out pamphlets and talked about the show to people. And that's another way that the GIC is really great. They do lots of things to help you do what you want to do, to help you make this feel more like a home for you.
And again, this wasn't our idea, GIC Day. We got an email like, please have a booth at GIC Day. Like, how lucky is that?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So it's really surprisingly easy to start doing something in this community here. This show, as Travis said, I wasn't involved in the first one, so I don't know how unorganized it was, but this show was very organized. This is a chart that I made for the show, and Gail made various charts as well. We had rehearsal schedules, and people come in at this time and do this, and that way the rehearsal process for this show is a lot shorter than the first process.
Yeah. From start to finish, the Picasso at the La Panagile show, Krista, how long was it? 3 months, 4 months? 4 whole months, where everybody had to give up every weekend, which is such a huge thing to ask of your friend. Like, you can never travel, you can never drink too much, you can never do anything, because we're going to take your time for 4 months. And some people are only in Korea for 1 year, so it's a huge commitment. And then this show was, what, 6 weeks? 2 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This show was more of, in the professional theater world, that's about as much time you had. So it was more the same time span that you would do for a real show in the professional world, which is good because you don't require as much from everyone. As he said, it's hard not to be able to travel when you're only in Korea for a certain amount of time. And so this way we could allow everyone to experience Korea, but also do this really great experience and project with us. So we had rehearsals. Our rehearsals every Saturday were held right in this room in the GIC. They graciously allowed us to use the room every Sunday.
Yeah, I believe every Sunday.
And we had this room to ourselves every Sunday, the whole day, as long as we wanted it.
Yeah.
And that made a huge difference for this show because we knew that we had a space every weekend, no matter what.
And not on a roof. We didn't have strikes on the roof.
It was not on a roof. It was not outside. All we had to do was just make sure that we cleaned it up afterwards. And we were really grateful for that because otherwise we would have to rehearse in my tiny, tiny environment. And that would be
Terrible.
terrible.
We got a wheelchair.
Yeah, the wheelchair would take up the whole apartment. So these are just a few pictures from rehearsals. The way that we did this is that I was the director for it, and Travis and Zach, who he talked about in the last show, were the assistant directors. And again, we were really grateful to have Zach because he has lots of acting experience. And so with the three of us directing and working together, I think, managed to pull off a pretty successful show.
Yeah.
And we were very lucky to run into the lovely Gail, who was our stage manager for the show and organized and carried out everything we needed. So.
Yeah, and that was another thing, like, we needed that person. We needed someone who was super organized and super committed, and she just appeared like magic. And that's what the foreigner community does here. It just provides what you need.
You just need to put it out there. I need this. For example, for this show, we needed a dead body. Someone to lay on stage for an hour and a half and not move.
And it's surprisingly hard to find that. Because it's boring.
Yes,
thankless.
it's boring and there are mosquitoes and you can't swat at them because you're supposed to be dead. And finally, we couldn't find anyone. Finally, Travis put it on Facebook, and the next day? The next day we had a guy who said, hey, I want to play a dead body.
And we're like, okay.
Come on in.
And like, we needed someone to do our sound, a sound technician. And then this girl emailed me, Kate Jiraki. She was a professional sound producer from PBS in the United States. And she was like, yeah, I'll do the sound for your show for free. Like, what are the chances of that happening? But it happened again and again and again. Anytime we needed anything.
We needed someone to do a set drawing of our set for the theater, and someone appeared and said, oh, I'm an interior designer. I could do that in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because it would have taken me like hours. So it's really fantastic. If you want to do something, just put it out there and it will happen. We were there so long that Bill had to celebrate his birthday with us at rehearsal.
We lived in the GIC here. And me and Gail and Amanda pretty much worked on this 7 days a week for the entire time.
Yes.
That's Gail.
This is Gail.
Yeah.
And we, as Travis just said, this is, besides working and teaching, this is what we did for weeks. And Travis and Gail especially, because their working hours are more conducive to being able to do other things. They just built and made and worked on things for such a long time, and we just became a wonderful, happy family.
Yeah.
And these are some of our finalized show pictures. Our theater was actually right here downtown, next to the Lemon Table. We actually don't know the name of the theater.
I don't know the name of the theater, but we're going to show you a picture of it later, and it's a lovely theater that anybody should rent if they want a theater.
Yeah.
And the people there are amazing.
Yeah, and it was difficult at first to find one, but again, we needed a theater. We had somebody who said, hey, I know somebody who lives above a theater. Let's see if we can get them to help us get it. And we got the space, and the man who is in charge of the space itself speaks pretty good English, and we could communicate with him, and he was very helpful. He built our set for us.
Yeah.
We said, this is what we want to do. We were worried about putting our set up, and he said, oh,
no problem.
I'll just build it for you. Just give me a drawing, and I'll build it for you.
For free, of course.
Yeah, for free, of course. So, again, it's really easy. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there and do it. This is some pictures of the stage and our show and our set. Everything that we got, we borrowed from somebody.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know where to find things again. So there's bookshelves and tables and
grandfather
books
clocks.
and grandfather clocks and stuff that we just, somebody said, hey, I have this. It looks like an old house type thing. Do you want it for the show? Huey brought all of his plants. To make it.
the GIC.
Yeah, the GIC, lots of our stuff was GIC donated for the time of the play.
The most important set piece, actually, the couch that hides the body, was the GIC let us borrow one of their benches for it, which was fantastic. And this is Travis's wonderful
My
death.
epic death.
And the end result of the show.
And then,
now we're all a big happy family.
yeah. And I should emphasize that the kind of relationships that you build with a project like this are much stronger than regular friendships, I think. Because you take such a big risk together, it's so scary, and you create something together that you can then look back on. So the friends that I've made through this are my best friends. It's an amazing thing to do, to build something with a group of people.
Yeah, and before this, I was I'm here in Korea teaching and doing what I really wanted to do, but I was feeling like I was lacking some sort of a family-centered thing. And when I found this, it really brought together my...
A thing like this on in Korea, as opposed to back home. Obviously, we had the challenge of the language barrier, that like, everything we did and everything any foreigner does is affected by this. And the language/cultural barrier. Like, we don't know how to communicate anything to the people who live here, but we also don't know, like, what kind of shop sells what kind of thing, or what is polite to ask and what is not polite to ask. And it freezes you at every juncture. You'll spend a whole day looking for a staple gun or some ridiculous small prop. It's really difficult. So that's something that anybody would have to overcome here, doing anything. And then that affected other things, like our rehearsal space. Like we said, we had to use rooftops in people's coffee shops and people's apartments sometimes. Really difficult. And the performance venue, same thing. We needed to find a place to put the show on, but how? Like, do you look at the Yellow Pages? Do you go on the internet? Like, what do you do? And our Korean friends were all very helpful, but only to, like, most people don't know these things. And then props and buying things, like I said, where do you buy them? How do you acquire them? Where does the money come from? Because we were just adding everything up as we go, hoping that we'll make the money back. So of course we want things for free instead of for the regular price. And then finally, all our shows, we don't know who's going to come to them. Like, is it going to be a foreign audience or is it going to be a Korean audience? And if it's a Korean audience, what do we do to accommodate that? Like, both of our plays, the English was really difficult in them. And how do we make it easier for the people to understand? We discussed subtitling our shows, but that means you have to translate an entire script and then project it somehow. It was just beyond our means. I had a class, a university class, volunteer to translate one of the plays, but at the end it was just too difficult. So all we could do is that by the second project, we had a friend of ours, it was Jo Park, the director of the first show, who lives in New York City. I emailed her some stuff, and she made a package for me to help the Korean people in the audience understand the show a little bit better. Explain the characters, explain the plot, just give them a guide. And Huey actually really helped with that too, giving us some information about the play. But these are all challenges that I think anyone would have to be aware of. And then how do we overcome them? Oh yeah, this is the theater, by the way. Next to Lemon Table, it's kind of hidden in here. But awesome theater, and I would recommend it. And so how did we overcome our challenges? How did we make the show happen? It was through our friends and the community here. And I could make a list that's 6 times longer than this, but basically, we had the GIC that at the time was Maria Lisak, was the one who helped us with every detail we needed. She was always emailing me saying, like, Travis, what more can I do? How can we help you? And then Dr. Shin also I was corresponding with him, and he was helping me try to find a theater. And I really appreciated that. The GIC here, and then Maria Lisak, if you don't know her. I'm sure she's really happy that I chose this picture. And then Dr. Shin, I don't know if you remember him, strutting his stuff at the GIC day. That was amazing. He did this for like 10 minutes. Yeah. And then also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Underground Grocers / the First Alley restaurant. These guys, I can even count the amount of ways that they helped me. The storage, the publicity. They gave us, they sold tickets for us. They gave us free drinks. And that was, I double thanks to Tim Whitman, who's a fixture in this community, and everybody loves him. And also Michael, who owns the place. Michael Sinning, here with his daughter. That's right, he owns the place, right? I'm saying it right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And so both of these guys helped us immensely. And then Sunny, I don't have a photo of him, but he's the Korean friend who lived above the theater, who did all the translation for us, gave us storage space, and gave us a free place to have a cast party. Just a random Korean person that only one of us knew that helped, that gave us a hand, you know. And then the GFN is the radio station, all our Korean friends and coworkers. I wanted to give a shout out to the Koons, because the Koons promoted for us. They actually offered us a free space to perform, but due to our play, it didn't work out. We couldn't do it there. But that was amazing of them to offer us a place to do it. And then finally, there's this print shop. I don't know, one of our challenges was we had paintings on our sets. But do you get someone to paint a painting for you? That's too much to ask. So instead, we found images online and printed them at this shop. And we found out that you can print anything as large as you want for $10, for 10,000 won. And this enormous, waterproof material is beautiful. So we made our whole set out of really inexpensive printed images from the shop. And they were really nice, even though they didn't speak a word of English. And they were probably really frustrated with me coming in there every weekend. Sorry, I'm bogarting and talking.
That's fine. The next project is not associated with the Gwangju Performance Project, but a couple of our friends are doing the Vagina Monologue in the spring.
And our website is www.gwangjutheater.com. And on that website, you'll find information about their play too, which is going to happen sometime in the spring. Lee Hellman, who's doing it, has supported us, and we're supporting her in return. It's another example of the way that foreigners, I think, help each other out here. But for our group, we're just taking a break after our 2 big performances, but then we have all these ideas that everybody keeps throwing at us. Every time I go out, somebody's like, hey, you guys should do this! And it's always some crazy thing that I never heard of before. Should we do a radio play? Should we do one-act plays? Should we do cabaret, musical theater, sketch comedy, poetry, dance? All of these things are possible. It's just a matter of us deciding on a thing. So now I know a dance choreographer because they contacted me and said, hey, I want to choreograph some dance for you. So that opens new doors. Some people want to do musical and are really good at that sort of thing. I'm not. My challenge is if we do a musical, I can't participate because I can't sing. So anyway, we're open to suggestion, and if anybody wants to do any kind of project, you can contact us at our website or whatever, and give me an idea, and we can make it happen. Because we're going to do at least 2 more shows in the coming year. We just don't know what they are yet. So, one more time, the whole point of this talk is to get you guys to do something of your own. I feel if one person takes a leadership role and says, I want this kind of project to happen, and puts it up on the internet, then you will have no shortage of assistance. I've heard people talk about a singing group. I've heard people talk about recreational sports groups. Everybody has ideas about things that they want to see in the community. But just do it. Just make it happen. If you take the first few steps, then other people will take all the other steps. You might have to keep bugging them about it, but think about what you want and come to the GIC and meet people and make your own project.
And that is all that we have to say.